I'm going to begin bag 2. So this is bag 2. There's a lot of things in bag 2 that you're going to need for multiple steps. But we will begin with the front sway bar. Now the front sway bar is actually quite thin. I recommend that you run the vehicle, and then after you run it, decide what sway bar you should go with. So the little silver oppressor, this little one, this is the one I'm going to be using for the sway bar. So you grab this little set screw, put a little bit of thread lock, don't overdo it, I overdid it, it's alright, towel, there, and I'm going to face this, so it has to be centered. And then that is it. And this little ball fits in that cavity. So that's where it goes, and the sway bar just sits and then it points toward the rear. Now there's a variety of different sway bars that you can get for this. The main thing is to make sure that it's even. So I'm actually going to go ahead and measure just so it's even. So I'm going to use my ruler real quick. So I'm going to be off camera for just a small little bit while I take care of this. And the reason why is because the sway bar is a spring, so you want an even spring tension on both sides. If you end up with a shorter side, that side is going to have a higher spring rate, even though it's the same sway bar. But that is all. Here is the sway bar. And now we're going to be using 2 screws, and we're going to have these 2 little screws right here. They're sort of a gray color. And let's see. And you'll be able to tell them apart, and the reason why is because these are 2.5, so they're thinner than the other screws that are in the kit. So these are what will be holding the sway bar down. Now remember, you're driving these in, but the sway bar needs to be able to move freely. So you can always drive it too far and then just back it out. And by too far, don't overdo it. You don't want to bend the sway bar. So I'm just, let's see. Oh, there we go. And then you install the second one. And the reason why I installed one first is so I can make sure it moves freely, but it's not loose. And then I can do the same thing with the other, because if I put both of them at the same time, then it's more of a challenge to know which one's too tight or which one's too loose. There we go. And that is it. So we have finished this part on this side. So now we can go ahead and go on to page 6. So for page 6, we will be needing the chassis, which is right here. Now, a quick note about this. I will not be building this completely stock. This is the stock bulkhead. It's a plastic one. It will break. And even with this metal reinforcement brace, this will break. This is the upgrade right here. This is the one I recommend. It is a steel brace. They used to make a brass one. Those are difficult to find, but if you look online, sometimes you can find them. Although there isn't much of a weight difference between one or the other. So the steel one is good. Steel is stronger than brass, which is why I would recommend to just go with the steel. And make sure you do not lose these little set screws because you will be needing them for here. And very important, do not over tighten these. I believe these are aluminum, which is a problem. I actually dislike aluminum screws and set screws, but I will be using these. The reason why is they strip easily. Oh, I have to cut it. Thought it was open, but it's not. Go ahead and place these here. You will be needing thread lock for that. And now there is a difference. So notice 30 degree, 25 degrees. So just like the stock one, 25 and 30. So this one I will not be using. It can go there. It can become a paperweight, although it doesn't weigh much. So it really just depends on what you want. I'm going to go with a 25 for this setup. There is an optional 20 degree. If your track is really, really smooth, not bumpy at all, 20 degree may work. So I'm going to grab the 25 and make sure that the 25 points forward. So there's a 25 pointing forward, and this would go right in here. Now this is the reason why I'm doing it now. I just don't want to disassemble everything later since I know I'm replacing it anyway. All right. So notice these two bits, those go in those holes. Here we go. All right. And these ball studs go forward, your bell crank goes toward the back. So make sure the bell crank is toward the rear. Just go ahead and hold it. All right, now the two screws that we need to secure this section are the 16 millimeter, which I believe are these. Go ahead and I'll measure them over here. These are, all right, so it's these here. Go ahead and place these, and these should go in the back. So we'll go in the rear. It should be a 2 millimeter driver. So I'm gonna drive one in, just get it started, then I'll drive the other. All right, let me get the other one going. Now, one of the things that I like about these kit, it actually comes with the chassis weights, and they are steel. I think the older versions either came with an aluminum one, which was lighter, or maybe they didn't come with one. I cannot remember, to be honest. It has been a while since I've built one of these buggy kit. Right. Go ahead and do this. Now the front ones, you don't worry about the front ones until you mount the bumper. That's the reason why we're not placing them, or we're not installing them at this time. You're only doing those rear ones, and snug is all you need to not over tighten. So we have the two screws there. And that is it for this step. So if you wanted the 30 degree, you would just flip this. Well, just rotate 180 degrees, and that would be all. So at this point, I'm going to put the chassis weights. I am going to install both of these chassis weights, and these, I really like the quality and just the machining from Team Associated. That is one thing. I complain about their manuals. Their manuals, I think, are not the best in the world, but the machining is. Let's see, so I just need a little dab. Don't want to overdo it. Now I'm not too concerned about these because they will not fall off. There will be tape over this later on, or a chassis protector, one or the other. So if the screws start backing up, that will catch it. which is something that you need to run if you're running on carpet. You need a chassis protector or just duct tape. And the reason why is if one of your screws accidentally starts backing out, it's going to catch on the carpet. And you don't want that for a variety of reasons. One, your car got caught. Two, you're destroying the carpet in that local track. You don't want to be that guy. All right, so let's go ahead and install the other plate. Now this one's going to require 4 screws. Not a big deal. I almost feel like dabbing this and see how that works. Well, no. Oh, that was a disaster. Things not to do. Luckily it's a towel. Actually, this kind of works. Alright, let's see if we can grab that. And let's grab the other. Hey, it's a happy accident. That works. I mean, I'm not going to do that again, not on purpose. And once all 4 screws are in, that's when I recommend you tighten these. The reason why is just in case it fits skewed, which Team Associated, to be honest, their machining is... All of their kits that I've built so far are great. Maybe somebody will get one that's not the best, but as of now, I have not had an issue. That is it. So the weights are installed. Now I can go ahead and place this. Make sure you wipe this first with rubbing alcohol, just to make sure that these stick properly. And these foams are a necessity, so make sure that you put these here. This is pretty much the only thing that's going to dampen shock to your battery. And the reason why I start forward and then back is because I usually run the battery farther forward. That's really the only reason. But that is it. So side rails. Side rails, we have these 2 right here. Now, I actually took apart the spurs and took these off the spur trees before I started assembling. But one of the things, there's a right on the left. You cannot screw this up. Even if you accidentally grab this one, and it just won't fit, so they key on. So that's very important. So we're going to begin with the left side. So I'm going to go ahead and flip it right now. And all of the screws except for one on the right side, they're all 8mm screws, and they're all countersunk screws, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. I am mistaken. All right, so the rear 5 are 8mm, the front 5 are 10mm. So 8mm and 10mm, countersunk. All right, so we have a 10. All right, so we'll do, let's see, how many 10s? 4. And now we need 5/8. Actually, no, these are the 10s. These are the 10s down here. Let me measure this properly. All right, this is an 8. So these are the 8s. It says 5, I only see 3. This is an issue. All right, these are all the same size. Oh, here we go. There's the other 2. Placed them in the wrong section. All right, so we have 5, and then we're gonna need 4 10s. So these are 8s, these are 10s. Let's see, I'm just gonna hold it here. So I'm gonna begin with the 10s, and I'm gonna begin with the 4 10s, which are the front screws. And I'm just going to drive them in to get them started, maybe halfway, maybe a little more. But I'm not going to finish tightening them until they're all on. And the reason why is just in case I need to shift this. Now this is plastic going onto aluminum, so sometimes there is a little bit of adjustment that needs to be performed, but usually things go in smoothly with Associated kits. Again, I do like the quality of Associated. Now, one thing that they do have, Associated has quite a lot of play on their parts, especially their steering. I've heard people refer to that as the Associated slop. That's normal. I think it's just part of the design, but they run great, especially for the price. I mean, you can get some other kits that are much more expensive. X-Ray's one of them, for example. I think Associated is probably one of the best, if not the best, kit you can get for the money, for that price point. All right, I'm gonna set this down. The other one. And I'm doing it like this just because of the limited space that I have here. Usually all of these parts, I mean, if I wasn't recording this, it was a different kit that I already built and recorded. All of these parts would have been spread out, so that way I wouldn't have to screw this onto the chassis. Let's see. This screw, I'm actually going to replace. I'm not going to install this one yet, and the reason why is I want the fan mount. So this is where the fan mount is, or goes, so I'm not going to bother with this for now. I'm just going to do these. It's a good thing I caught myself there. And that's one of the nice things about the 0.3, it does have that fan mount. So you can have a fan that just points right at the bell of the motor. All right. It's one rail. Now we can do the other one. And we will do the 10 millimeters here. So the 10 millimeters just go on the front. It's somewhat easy if you just look at the size of the plastic. I mean, the thickness there, it's just a lot thicker. Actually, looking at the instructions manuals, those three actually go here, so this one wasn't even an 8 millimeter, so I'm glad I didn't do that. Plus, it probably wouldn't thread anyway because you need that fan mount. Alright, so 2 more screws for the rails. Now after this, I'm going to move on to the servo. One little note about the servo setup is the following. One, make sure you run power to your servo to make sure that your servo is at 90 degrees. So it's on the top point. The other thing too is I forgot to pick up an aluminum servo arm for this, but make sure you get an aluminum servo arm. This servo, or servo horn I should say, it will break. The plastic one will break. And the worst thing is it usually breaks on the first race. All right, that is it for that. I will now go into this section right here. Let's see, so we will go ahead and need these little plastic bits, and this long screw. Now one side you can put your driver in. So all you're going to do is just drive it in one end. So drive, it's really less than half of the screw. Now something else that you can do is just grab another driver or something, place it here. This makes it much easier. Hold it. And then once you're about halfway, you're set. This is actually your steering linkage. Now, you should have another millimeter washer. That's this little blue washer. And then you just grab the other end. Just drive it in. And these should be offset by about 90 degrees. Go ahead and use my drivers. And there it is. All right, so linkage is set, everything is good. Now, the servo I'm going to be using for now is this one. So this is a Savox SV1245MG. I'm going to go with steel gears for this. That's the reason why. I don't really want metal gears, which means there's brass gears in there. So I'm going to go with something that's all steel. Now, part of me really doesn't want to install this horn, but I'm going to go ahead and do it. So this is the 25 tooth horn. So if you look at these, there will be a 23, 24, and 25. I'm using the 25. This blue little washer goes in here. Now, one of the things to note is there's a flat side to it, and then there's a side that's a little rounded. This part that's a little rounded, that's going to go toward the servo. So now I'm going to grab this, and it's just going to press in, and that is it. Once that is pressed in, I'm going to go ahead and grab an 8mm screw, which should be one of these, and it is. And I'm going to put a little bit of thread lock compound. Nope, not enough. It's soaked into the towel. And I'm going to go ahead and drive it. So I'm just going to install it like this, then I need to get an aluminum servo horn for this thing. And that is it. I'm also going to need the ball stud. So here is the ball stud, and the ball stud is just going to go on the servo horn. Here we go. Now if you do go with the aluminum one, it's threaded, so it just thread on. You can put a nylon nut on the other side, but it's not necessary. And the only thing that's going to happen with that nylon nut, it's going to hit the top part of the bulkhead. So that's the issue with it. And that is it for this part of the build. So on the next one, we will go ahead and continue on with bag 2, page 7, which is step 5. Thank you very much for watching. Please subscribe if you have not, and I'll catch you in the next one.
Oh, what? Oh, my hair! My arm! My rod!